Okay, so this is the greatest fantasy series of all time.
It's called the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson.
And this is the newest book in the series, Winds of Truth. I've been so excited to read this book, and I think the only fitting way to read such an epic book is to do a book marathon on the top of a mountain in winter. Let's go.
If you haven't read this series, it takes place in a world called Roshar, and this world has a very unique weather system. Instead of regular storms, Roshar only experiences frequent but unpredictable high storms. Imagine a typhoon had a baby with a hurricane and it was raised by a tornado. These storms are so strong that they have guided evolution and even urban planning. Grass retreats into the rock at the slightest disturbance, animals have shells, and cities are built into the leeward side of hills. It is a defining piece of world building in this series.
Spikes are starting to get a little stuck in the snow and I'm starting to sink in, so I think it's time we get some snowshoes on.
I feel like I've been here before, familiar with the view, the same old thing. And every time that you walk through the door, I'm hit by the same old side, blinded by the lights, and I'm going through changes, but it's easier with you.
So you're probably asking yourself, why? Why hike a mountain in winter, go camping to read this book? I thought it would be sort of fitting for this book, really get into the scene of it, of this extreme weather, to hike to a place where I'm really gonna feel that. I'm gonna feel sort of the extremity of Mother Nature, of the elements. Obviously this is not a typhoon, but it is cold. I'm getting quite cold. It's a little isolated. I think it's just gonna, be really cool to put myself into a place where I'm really gonna like sort of feel that tension in the book.
With you, I am not myself. You bring out the best in me, the side of you can't see.
One of the reasons I love this fantasy series is because it was the series that reignited my enjoyment for fantasy books as an adult. As a kid, I read lots and I loved reading fantasy books. But as an adult, I mostly read nonfiction and the occasional science fiction. Now I can honestly say one of my favorite hobbies is reading fiction.
I live for the moments when you're around me. I know you've got secrets, but I can't keep on. And we're fading in and out together. You're wide open,
Okay, so the good news is that I made it to my campsite for the night. I have some like fantastic views of the mountains here, and I just really want to start reading. It's already 4:45, so I only really have like 48 hours to do this whole thing. Just excited to get started, so I'm gonna finish setting up here and then it's time to start reading. I kind of can't believe I brought up this absolute monstrosity. Like, this thing genuinely must weigh, I don't know, 3 pounds or something silly. Like, it's nuts. Oh no. Scuff the page a little corner. That's what happens when you hike a book up a mountain. Some of the pages get a little caught. It's finally time. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm gonna start reading. Let's do this. Okay, so prequel finished, 22 pages in. So far so good. I am freezing my butt off. Very much feeling the elements right now, and I think it's honestly the hardest part of this is just gonna be staying warm and comfortable. Like, I kind of can't leave my little mat here, or whatever is touching the snow is just frozen. So yeah, finding comfortable positions and reading this book and like being in my sleeping bag is gonna be a challenge.
I was finding reading in my sleeping bag pretty uncomfortable, so I decided to try and build a reading chair in the snow. Unfortunately for me, Mother Nature decided I had enough time outside and forced me back into my tent as a snowstorm came in.
Well, good morning. Another beautiful day for reading. Okay, so I just hiked down from my campsite to this little emergency shelter here where people can sort of stay the night if they need to. There's like a fireplace, a wood stove. Partly why I wanted to do this trip here was so that I had a backup if my, novice abilities to winter camp didn't go right. But the nice thing is there's picnic tables, so I can actually like sit and read and get comfortable. It is so foggy today that there's not really a view from my campsite today, so I might as well be more comfortable while I knock off the pages of the book.
Part of the reason I rate the Stormlight Archive so highly is because the world and magic system are incredibly complex, interesting, and unique. I think this was the first fantasy series I read that strayed so far from the typical sort of elves, wands, and dragon type universes, and it was awesome to see that there could be so much more out there. Later in the afternoon, the fog started to burn off, and I decided to seek higher ground for a sunset read.
I think I found my next reading spot. This is giving major Eurytheriu vibes. Anyway, the magical tower of the Radiance. I think this is exactly where it would be and what it would look like. So I'm gonna go and read for a while here. Look at that inversion. Wow. This is like absolutely peak living right now. I have like an inversion. I am reading my favorite fantasy series. I'm really not that far in. The book is set on days, so there's 10 days before sort of this big, potentially world-ending or saving event happens, and I'm only on day 2. I think I knew that finishing the entire book in sort of a 48-hour trip, 1,329 pages, and they're not small pages. I think I knew that was going to be pretty unrealistic, but I did think I'd make a bit of a bigger dent in it than I have. So far, it's been fantastic. I've gotten to that part where, you kind of are really into it again. You kind of remember all the characters, and it feels like I can't put it down, versus like last night I felt a little bit like, oh crap, I really need to think about this. I need to remember all the characters. Felt a little bit like work, and now I'm just like so freaking ready to keep reading. Well, I made it back from my little adventure to the top of Round Mountain, where I did my most epic reading of the day. I went back down to the Red Heather Hut, but it was pretty busy and kind of don't want to hear people talking while I'm sort of like trying to be in solitude and just reading. So back in bed, honestly just kind of need to get warm again. I'm very, 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 very cold. That I think is going to be the name of the game tonight, is just staying warm. It has gotten a lot colder. It's like a very clear night, and I think without that snow coming down, it's going to be chillier. So wish me luck. Okay, so I am not sleeping at all. I am freezing. It's supposedly -10 right now. I believe my sleeping bag is like a -6, so this is definitely the coldest that I've pushed it, and it's also 13 years old now, so I'm not sure it's actually giving -6 anymore. It's just cold enough that like I'm not sleeping well. And I think knowing that I'm not like super, super excited to wake up and just keep reading up here, you know, not moving and being in the cold is not the best. And there's not a lot of places for me to sit and read. And I think I'm just ready to go home and read in my own bed. The moon is also crazy bright tonight, so I feel like it'll actually be kind of a nice sort of midnight hike back in the quiet. I think that's the plan. We're gonna read the rest of this book at home in the warmth because I'm freezing. So cold right now.
On my lonely midnight descent down the mountain, something dawned on me. It wasn't the weather that made me feel more connected to the book. The cold and snow didn't help place me in Roshar like I envisioned. Instead, the moments when I was most invested and invigorated while reading this book was when I was in solitude. I most felt like I was with Adeline and Azimir when I was alone and free from distraction. I think the next time I try something like this, I'll probably look for a secluded spot in the trees where I can bring a chair and some of the extra creature comforts that make reading easier. No need to complicate it chasing typhoons.
Oh, this is so much better. I can't tell you how appreciative of a hot shower and a couch I am right now. Got about 4 hours before my sort of 48 hours of this reading marathon, book marathon is over. I'm excited to see where I get with it.
In the end, I managed to read 314 pages of the book before my 48 hours was up, and I had to get back to the real world and all of life's distractions.
It has been 3 weeks since I did my book marathon, and I just happened to be finishing editing as I finished the epilogue and postlude of this book, and I thought I would give some final thoughts for those of you who are still watching. This book, I think, did a really good job of filling in a lot of the holes in a way that I honestly didn't think they were going to be able to do. I was a little worried it was going to end up a bit like a sort of a lost ending where there's all this mystery and, you know, what's going on and why, and I feel like we got way more information than I thought we would about those things. I thought they would just leave some things unanswered. Brandon Sanderson did it. This book really does sort of fill in all the holes. It sets the rest of the series up for just this absolutely wild, Cosmere-wide conflict that I think is just going to be incredible. I would highly recommend. And in fact, if you've made it this far and you would like to read this book, I have this copy now and I don't want it to just sit on my shelf. So, do the things like, subscribe, comment below, and in a week's time I'll pick a winner and I will send them to you. As long as you are in the United States or Canada. I don't think I can ship this across an ocean, but if you are in those two places, like, subscribe, and comment, and I will send this to you. Okay, small issue here. I did not bring a utensil with me. Oh, so dumb. Oh well, guess I'm just slopping this out somehow. Yum.